Path to Recovered. Woo! My name is Deanna Golden. I am the CEO and founder of the Path to Recovered, and this is the Golden Nugget podcast. So we haven't seen you guys in a few weeks, and I've missed doing these podcasts so much. Today we have a guest. His name's Mark, and Mark and I have known each other for a couple of years now. Yeah. And today he's going to tell us a little bit about his story around his mental illness, around alcoholism, drug addiction, and we're going to get to know him a little bit better. Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm fine. My name's Mark McGinn. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I'm grateful to be here on the podcast.
Thank you. Glad you're here. Thank you for doing this for us.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's jump into some questions.
Okay.
So the first question I have is, first of all, how long have you been sober?
I have been sober since January 29th of 2022, which is a little over 3 years.
Awesome. Congratulations. Yay. Is that the longest you've been sober before?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What's the longest period of time you've been sober?
16 years.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, so there's a big story between that. We're going to get to that story in a minute.
Yes, we
So
will.
what led you to wanting to get sober in the first place, like when you first got sober?
The first time I was forced to get sober from other people.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, my
interesting.
parents and things like that. Because
Yeah.
I started off very, very young.
Okay,
and
teenager.
Teenager.
Me too.
Preteen, teenager.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I actually had my 14th birthday in my first detox. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Interesting.
So,
So were your parents alcoholic?
no, not
Okay.
at all.
Okay.
No, my grandfather was, but that was it. But
Yeah.
my parents, no. They put up with a lot.
Yeah, for sure. It
Yeah.
sounds like it.
Yeah.
So super young, started just drinking alcoholically.
Nice.
And
I started with drugs,
started with drugs. Okay.
and I'll get into it later in another question, but for most of my teens and 20s,
Yeah.
I did drugs,
Okay.
and when I didn't drink
Oh, interesting.
because it affected what the drugs were doing to me. So I
Right.
didn't think I had a drinking problem. I just thought I had a drug problem,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'll get into it a little more in a little bit, but
Yeah.
I'll explain it to you. But that's one of the reasons that I went back out after 16 years.
Okay. Thinking that you weren't an alcoholic,
I
that you
did
were
not
just a
think I
drug
was an
addict.
alcoholic. I
Yeah.
was just a drug addict. And
Yeah.
after 16 years, I decided I wanted to have a drink.
Yeah.
And it took me 6 years to get back
Mm.
to where I'm at today.
Mhm.
So,
And that's a long time, and it's interesting that you say that. I mean, obviously relapse isn't a necessity when it comes to sobriety, but it does happen to a lot of us.
yeah.
And that just kind of leads me into the next question. I did know that you've relapsed before. We've talked about that. You're coming up on a good sobriety date now, and your last one that you celebrated, or not sobriety date, your birthday, actual birthday. And you were saying on your last birthday, you relapsed. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm fixing to turn 60 in August.
Happy birthday.
And when I was 49 and I was going to turn 50, I said, "Oh, this is 50. I have to do something for 50."
Yeah.
And I chose to have a drink, which was a very bad choice.
Yeah.
But we live by our mistakes. So
Yeah, for
I
sure.
figured it took me 6 years to put down the alcohol,
Yeah.
and during those alcohol had done something that it had never done to me before. It wiped me out.
Gotcha.
It took everything. I could not stop. I drank alone. I drank every day.
Right.
And I had never done that before with alcohol. I've always been able to just have a couple beers here and a couple beers there, but this time, and that's when I got back. When I started to get sober this time,
Yeah.
I had lost everything: my home, my car, my job, my family, everything, and I had to admit that, hey, I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And I've run into several people in the recovery community who are starting to get sober and have a drug problem or whatever, and don't think that, and so my problem is just drugs, it's not alcohol.
Yeah.
And I try to explain to them that for now,
Yeah,
it
maybe
might be
that's not the
drug-
case forever.
It might be drugs, but
Yeah.
and so
Well, it's cool that you have that experience. You can share that with other people. And the thing is like, I think some people tend to say a drug is a drug is a drug is a drug, which I don't necessarily agree with. But I do believe what you're saying is that, of course we know that the problem isn't the drug or the alcohol, it's me, right?
Yes.
And why am I continuing to try to shove that into my body?
exactly.
And, being that I have that addictive behavior, and let's be honest, it's not just drugs and alcohol. It
No,
could be
it's-
sex, it could be shopping, it could be
It's anything.
whatever, right? Because I'm trying to change the way that I feel.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. We're trying to change the way we feel. Because since I was young, I did not like the way I feel.
Yeah.
And I thought I was less than and everything like that. And for a while, well, there were some good years with alcohol and drugs, but
Yeah.
that made me feel better. But it just
Went downhill fast.
downhill fast. Real
Well,
fast.
and that's the thing is like, if we were sitting here saying, oh yeah, like alcohol and drugs never worked for me and I never liked it and it was never fun, we'd be lying.
Exactly.
Like it did work.
It worked
For a while. Yeah.
But we crossed that line that where our minds took it, said, oh, we got this little glitch in here, and you're gonna do that. We're gonna show you what.
Yeah, and it's more and more and more and greater. And I think that's a big part of what you just said too in your story is that, it's not that you were just stayed in the same spot, it's that it got worse and worse and worse.
It just
and
got
worse.
worse.
Yeah.
It got so bad.
Yeah.
But
And that's such a powerful statement, I think, to the people that you help as well, is to say, yeah, maybe it's just drugs, but maybe it's not.
yeah,
Maybe it's that deeper problem.
yeah. I had someone come up to me and thank me. I mentioned it. I spoke at place to some people, and
Yeah.
about a month later, this guy came up to me and I said, "You know what? I was in the same boat, and I didn't think anything about it until you told me. You
Nice.
said that."
Yeah.
And then
for
he
sure.
thought about it, and he's like, "Whoa."
That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the same truth for me. It's like getting sober, going to hear people tell their story and, their experience and what happened with them, as I was able to kind of relate to that stuff and go, yeah, that was me too. Because we feel alone. I don't know about you, but I felt alone.
I was
felt so
always alone. I'm a very strong introvert.
Yeah.
If I went to where people are, I'm the one in the corner with my hair
Yeah,
down
me
like
too.
this, and I'm not good at speaking or
Yeah.
speaking to people. So
Well, there's a lot of hope in that because you're saying now you do. You go stand up and you speak in front of people. You're doing the podcast with me today.
Yeah.
You're speaking, and that's such a huge thing considering, we were the way that we were.
yeah.
And it's such a huge testament to God too, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Without his help, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this.
Yeah.
I mean, this 2 or 3 years ago, this would scare the crud out of me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm like, oh no. But
But with God's help, it's like, it doesn't mean that I'm never in fear or I'm never scared of things or I don't get nervous. I do, but at the same time, like, I know that it's not about me. And I know that there's that person, even, our listeners today behind the podcast that are going to hear something that they can relate to and it helps them. So it's cool.
I mean, it has to, with my mental illness and stuff, God has to do is a lot. And the way I get through it now is through him and through people that I learned a long time ago, well, not a long time ago, several years ago, that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I have schizophrenia. If you have this, there is nothing good about it.
Gotcha.
There is nothing good about it.
Gotcha.
It is it torments me on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But what I have found, because I've tried to look at it and try to get something good out of it.
Yeah.
The only good thing that I get out of it is that there might be somebody out there that's going through it,
Yeah.
and I can help them.
Yeah.
That is the only good thing, and that's what gets me through it.
Well, it's cool that you could use it like that. So let's talk about that a little bit. I know that we had chatted, a couple months ago, and you were saying you were off your medicine and you were having to switch brands and all of that, and that's a huge struggle. So, what are some things as far as like God and recovery and all of that that really helps you with that part?
Well, up until I got sober this time,
Yeah.
I used to end up in a psychiatric hospital
Okay.
4 or 5 times a year
Gotcha.
to get my medication adjusted and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I'm an addict and an alcoholic, but my medication, I built up a tolerance to medication, so we have to change it. I used, before 3 years ago, I used to have to go in the hospital because it was all bets off on what I would do.
Okay, gotcha.
Since I've been sober, early in my first year of sobriety, I went to the hospital once.
Gotcha.
I haven't been back since in 3 years.
Nice. Yay.
Yeah, I have not been in the hospital in 3 years.
That's so awesome.
But the thing that I learned, and it's very hard because there's a lot of fear with psychiatric patients. I'm just speaking myself, but
Yeah.
a lot of psychiatric patients, there's a fear of being honest with your psychiatrist.
Right.
You're scared that he's going to put you on some stupid medication, or fear you're going to get put in a psych hospital.
Yeah.
And those places are not fun.
Yeah.
But I learned that if you're not 100% honest with your psychiatrist, he cannot help you.
Yeah.
Because he does not know what's going on.
Right.
And I did that for a lot of years. I went in there and told him what I thought he
Why
wanted. I told him what I thought and I was not getting any help.
Yeah.
And I was getting worse and worse. And the past 3 years, I am 100% honest with him.
Interesting.
My psychiatrist now, when I started going, the first time I went to him, I said, I hope you can deal with me telling you I'm doing terrible and I'm miserable and all that sort of stuff, because I'm just going to be blunt with you.
Yeah.
And he said, that's new.
Well, and I think that just validates the point of why your sobriety is so different now compared to what it was before.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like you're working a different recovery program where you're completely honest.
Yeah.
And I know for me, I've done, recovery programs a bunch of different ways and I wasn't successful in it.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel the same way. It's like until I really was able to get honest with myself, like I'm not going to be honest with the doctor or psychologist or even my mentor that, helps me through my recovery program. Like if I'm not honest with myself through those people, I'm not going to become fully recovered. And fully recovered, as well as I do, means freedom. Exactly. That's what you're experiencing now is freedom.
I tell people when I'm not doing good. If
That's
I'm
good.
not doing good and you come up and ask me, I'm going to tell you I'm not doing good. My mentor, he helps me a lot. But when I told him my schizophrenia and stuff like that, he says, I have no clue what you're going through. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea what you're going through. But I'll walk with you through it.
Yeah.
And
that's a huge statement too, is like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know what you're going through when I don't.
Exactly.
I mean, that's huge.
That solidified my relationship with him. He's just not,
that's love.
Yeah, he's not gonna say, oh, well, I know what you're going through. No, he told me. He said, I have no idea. But when my medication needs to be adjusted and stuff, and I call him and he listens.
Yeah. Okay. Let's figure out what the solution is.
And usually the answer is, God.
Yeah.
Go help somebody.
Yep.
Or
pray about it. Ask God what He wants you to do. Yeah, for sure. So, talking about your mental illness, I think it's really important for our viewers who also struggle with the same thing to get some hope around becoming recovered, of relying on God. So, what do you feel like are some blessings around that in your life that you've got to experience? I know we talked a little bit about your church stuff that you do, and there's some huge blessings there.
I go to church. I usually don't tell everybody that I meet, I said, I don't come up and say, hey, I'm an alcoholic. But I mean, there's some in church that my pastors know I'm a recovered alcoholic, and it's neat because one of my old mentors is one who brought me to my church.
Nice.
And they used to call him when somebody had a problem with alcohol.
Yeah.
But he's moved out of town, so now they call me.
Nice.
So I get numbers from my pastors, and I've done a video in church that they played in church, telling me a little bit about my story. But
awesome.
it's the blessings I get is being able to go to places and help people.
Yeah.
That's the biggest blessing, because I all my life I didn't think I could help anybody.
Yeah.
I thought I would just low to the ground.
Yeah.
And now I mean, it's just amazing that I can even do that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a talker. I'm not somebody that is comfortable in crowds or anything like that.
Yeah.
But for me to go in front of people and tell them about myself and be honest about myself.
Yeah.
Oh, because all my life, if you found out who I was, I would, no way, you cannot find out who me.
Yeah.
No way.
Well, and it's, it makes us uniquely useful to the people who are still out there suffering to know, like, oh my gosh, there is hope. And there is so much hope in your story. That's why I asked you on this podcast. Is like, man, you've overcome so many huge things in your life. You've had so many obstacles, and it just goes to show us that anything's possible with God's help. Anything is possible, and we have a purpose, which is huge. I don't know about you, but I spent a lot of my life, especially drinking or in the ditches, just with drugs.
I never had a purpose.
What's my purpose? Why am I here? To suffer? This sucks.
Oh, it was terrible. It's so nice today, to have my family back in my life. Before I got sober, they
wouldn't have nothing to do with you.
Stay away. And now I get to go spend time with my dad and hang out with my family, and
awesome.
They actually want me there.
Right.
Instead of he's just here because he's part of the family. But they want me there, and they enjoy my company, and that's amazing.
Yeah, it's huge to get the family back for sure.
Yes, it is.
Yay, awesome. Well, I have one more question for you.
One more question.
So if you had to choose one thing about sobriety in your life today that you could give the suffering alcoholic like a ton of hope, our listeners today, what would that be? And what would you say to a person still out there suffering with alcoholism or mental illness?
Probably that there is hope. And I know for me, the hardest thing I've ever done is open my mouth and ask for help.
Yeah.
But there are people out there like us that will listen and that want to help.
Yeah.
And I mean, I spent a lot of years in suffering because I was too proud or whatever to ask for help. I got this.
Yeah.
And that's how I got sober this time. I just went to my friend and said, I can't do this. Yeah. I'm either going to die or I'm just going to drink myself into a wet brain or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing, is being able to ask for help and also accept help.
Yeah.
Accept help.
Right. Being willing. I think, being willing to kind of get out of your comfort zone and say, listen, like, I need the help, and then following their advice. I mean, it's hard, but it's possible.
Yeah. Like for me, it took losing everything before I could humble myself and do that. Yeah. Hopefully there's some people that don't have to lose everything. That can realize what they're doing and get help. Yeah. But if there are people out there that lose everything and need help, I'll be here. So.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, guys. Well, that's the end of our podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you guys need any help, please go to our website at thepathtorecover.org and find some resources there. Don't wait. If you're suffering now, reach out for help. You're not alone. And until next time, we'll see you guys. Bye.